Hey everyone, welcome to the Indieheads podcast. I'm your host, Matty, aka Recon IG. On this week's podcast, we have
An awkward silence.
an awkward silence. Yes,
I was gonna let our new guest go first.
yeah,
Okay, sure. I'm Stefan, aka Apotheosis91.
And I'm AJ, aka the Dark Hobo, and I'm so old I may as well be new.
yeah. You have not. This is what was the last time you were on the podcast, AJ?
God, I want to say it was February.
So yeah,
I think.
you have not been on the podcast in like 5 months now. That's
It's
crazy.
been quite a while, yeah.
You've been busy doing things with your life, you know.
I've been trying.
See, are you the editor-in-chief of your school newspaper or something like that?
I am, yes.
So you've been
That's
busy
what
with
I've
that,
been doing.
probably.
Yep, and I've been hosting a radio show here, and I was in Japan for a month.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, welcome back to the podcast, AJ.
It is lovely to be back.
So let's just start off with what we listened to this week. So I listened to a couple albums this week. The two I'm going to talk about are Dr. Dre, The Chronic, and 2001. So I was going to listen. I haven't listened to Compton. I've only listened to it once, so I can't say too much about it because I think it's an album that like. You want to say something, AJ?
I was just going to say I was going to put it on my thing this list because it's definitely what I've most listened to, but I figure we'll have a discussion for it some other time, so I was going to hold my comments until then.
Yeah, I think definitely like when Will comes back on the podcast sometime.
Yeah,
how
because
to win.
He's a Dre stan.
Yeah. But yeah, I listened to it kind of in preparation for Compton, and I'm not the biggest Dr. Dre guy. Like I haven't like really gotten into him, but The Chronic. There are certain things with this album that are dated. You know, the production is very good. It's dated in a good way. Of course, then you have the relentless misogyny that just pounds you on the head. Like it's just like you have to like listen to sound with like a grain of salt. It's like, okay, this is from a different era. Okay,
It really was kind of a different era. I mean, it's not even that long ago, but it really was kind of a different era of hip hop. I mean, it's more, I don't know, I don't want to say progressive, but like friendlier now, sort of accessible even.
Yeah, I think like right now, like if you say something that's like, offensive, people are gonna get on you for it.
Well, for example, Eminem has a line on the new album that's not even like the good kind of edgy or offensive. It's just atrociously bad. I think it's I even make the women I rape come, and it's like, Eminem, this is 2015. That line's trash. You got to stop.
Dude,
That sounds like a lot of post 2010 Eminem.
Oh God. Eminem. Okay, like
I think it's a good verse. Other than that, not to dwell too much on Compton, but I think it's a good verse. Other than that line, and then I think that's like the closing line, and that just leaves me with such like a disgusting feeling as soon as that verse ends.
yeah, just you gotta like it's the weird thing with Eminem is that like he's matured, but like not in certain ways. There's certain ways it's like, okay, Eminem, but he's mature in like a bad way, I guess. Where it's like, okay, you're an adult now. You can't really talk about the things you used to talk about, but you're still kind of doing that sometimes, but not always. It's like, okay, can you? It's the same thing. It's the same problem I have with like Tyler the Creator. It's like, but I think it's a special worse to Eminem because like Eminem isn't he like 43?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, Eminem, you're 43. You gotta stop calling people faggots, okay? Like
Tyler's
I
starting to
remember. You
push-
remember that I Need a Doctor song that's awful and
Yeah.
terrible because it's written by 2011 Eminem. It was just terrible. It's also produced by. Okay, if I had put together like a top 10 reasons why Eminem fell off, I would put Alex the Kid as one of those reasons. His influence on Eminem and his production is just like, no, because he produced "Love the Way You Lie," which is a terrible song.
I would argue that Rihanna might be the worst thing. One of the worst things to happen to Eminem, also.
Yeah, I could kind of say that, but I think it would be more of a problem of just Eminem growing up and maturing and kind of working with like pop artists he would have made fun of like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Or a
that's
decade.
good point.
But anyways, Alex the Kid is a horrible producer. If you listen to Imagine Dragons, guess what? Alex the Kid produced their music too. So if you wonder why it's so terrible, you can blame it on him.
Well, like to speak to the Rihanna point, I think one of the things that like did ruin Eminem is his reliance on like chorus girls. Like Marshall Mathers LP2, there's like a different woman on every song, and it's like, remember when guys used to do the chorus? Like, remember when just a rapper sang the chorus and it was fine? Why did Nate Dogg have to die? But anyways, yeah.
Man, rest in peace, man. Anyways, yeah, Chronic is I prefer the Chronic to 2001 because 2001 is also good, but the second half kind of falters, and also the anthems are too popular for their own good because they ruin the flow of the album. Because it's like, because you hear these anthems, you know, when you're growing up, you just hear all these songs like all the time, you know, What's the Difference, Still Dre, what are some other anthems on the album? Give me a moment. I have them. Okay, you have songs like, you know, Still Dre, What's the Difference, Forgot About Dre, The Next Episode. You go, wow, these are great anthems. But the album is way too fucking long. Let's just get that out of the way. That's a big problem with like late 90s, early 2000s albums, or just like mid 90s to early 2000s, is that they're way too fucking long.
It did not get fixed on Compton, I can say that.
It's a little shorter, but like, I mean, again, there's 23 songs on it, and like half of them are like a decent amount of skits, but still, it's like, dude, why do you have to pad out your track listing? It's just, and that's another thing I'm glad that like we've stopped doing, are like skits that aren't like a part of a concept album. The only time you should be able to do skits usually is like, okay, if you're making a concept album, like, okay, throw in a skit.
Like To Pimp a Butterfly.
Good Komatsu. Yeah. Skits make sense, but like on like 2001, it's just like, oh, we need skits because we gotta pad out the track listing.
I think we've traded longer albums for like longer individual songs. You know, the skit will just be packaged with the song.
Yeah, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, that might say something about how we consume music in 2015 too.
Mm-hmm. Where Aquem and I did that back in 1998. Like the skits are not separate tracks in that, which they actually were on Stagonia, which is weird. But like that was one of the first albums to do that. I guess is like bundle them so they were inseparable.
So yeah, it's weird. Anyways, 2001, good album. But I mean, both Chronic and 2001 are classic albums. But the Chronic just has a bit more cohesiveness to it, and also like I kind of prefer the datedness of like. Because both 2001 and, you know, the Chronic, they're both dated in certain ways, but, like, the Chronic just sounds better to me. Like, I just enjoy the production a bit more, and I enjoy, you know, like, Snoop Dogg is just fucking incredible on the Chronic. Like, Jesus Christ, he just... It kind of sucks that, like, he's kind of...
Snoop Dogg, yes, he used to be good.
He's not bad, but, like, now, but, like, back then, it was just like, holy shit, this is wild. And, you know, and Dre, you know, you can tell who's been right. Like, when you listen to like Dre, you can figure out who's written for him. Like, on Chronic, like, it's definitely like Snoop Dogg was at, like, his prime, and he was writing for Dre while at his prime, so, like, that's why the Chronic, like, sounds so good. And while 2001, you have a number of songwriters who, you know, there's a bit more datedness to them. You know, like, Eminem, you know, probably wrote a bunch of 2001, and there's a certain datedness about 2001 because of, like, some of the writers. But production is still, you know, both were greatly produced albums, and Dre's, you know, producer first, rapper second. So yeah.
Yeah, let me touch on that real quick too. I think something that I like about Compton, and I think why it's not being received as well by a lot of people, is because it really just shows off Dre's like prolificness as kind of a producer, and it plays out more like an ensemble album where he just brings in all of this younger talent and just says like, hop on these beats I made. You know, the sound design on that thing is what really like sets it apart for me. And I mean, there are some standout killer tracks in there. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I mean, that's kind of the reason you brought up these two older albums. So,
like with Compton, from my first listen, I couldn't tell like if Dre was on the songs or not. Like,
yeah, his voice sounds
so different. Is so different. The only time like you hear like, okay, this sounds like classic Dre is on the last track. Otherwise, it's like, wait a second, is this Dre or is this one of the features?
It all falls back on me. I think kind of sounds like classic Dre too. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm just gonna one more thing about Compton, and then I'll drop it. But that track "Genocide" is unbelievable, so good. It sounds like it's straight off of Clipping's album from last year. I was gonna say that too. The intro, it definitely sounds off. It just sounds incredible, so good. One of the best tracks of the year for sure.
Can I just like quick side comment? They got the rapper for Clipping. Oh my god, he's incredible.
David Diggs,
he needs more work.
Yeah, I rediscovered Clipping earlier this year, and oh man, they're just one of my favorite groups right now.
Yeah, that's why like the highlights of Clipping's albums for me are both just the intros, where it's just like David just like going, and it's endlessly entertaining for me. Like if Clipping put out an album of intro, I would be so happy.
And the story tracks are great too. Matty. Have we lost Matty?
No, we got him in the chat.
Okay. Well, his other album is The Knife, Shaking the Habitual, which is a great album. I've actually been listening to it kind of recently, too.
I have not listened to it in a long time, but I definitely agree. That was one of my favorites in 2013, and is still just like, oh, Matty's back.
Sorry
We're
about that.
talking about your album.
Sorry about that. My mom came in and she was like, the thing is, I got like a couple days on Friday. I got in a car accident, and which was my fault. I don't want to go into it. If you go through my Reddit comments, you could probably find the story. But do you guys hear my mom in the background?
Just like a little bit.
Okay. Ugh, I love my mom, but she's loud.
A featured artist.
But anyways, what are you guys talking about?
The knife, actually.
Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about that. The knife, Shaking the Habitual. I randomly put this album as one of my saved albums on Spotify because I wanted to listen to it again. Because I'm like, okay, I feel like I didn't give this album a fair chance when I first listened to it like a couple months ago. Because I liked some of the tracks, but I didn't really like give it a more focused listen. And giving it a more focused listen while I was watering flowers, I was like, wow, this album is fucking great. It is incredible.
Yeah, it's an album that like really demands a focused listen. Like that's one of the few albums I think that like I can just sit there and dedicate 90 minutes to that and just there's so much in there to appreciate.
Yeah, it's a long one.
It's a long album, and I actually have it. I had it on CD, but like the CD packaging was terrible, and that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Like the interlude, like the 18-minute track, or no, the 19-minute track, "Old Dreams Made Me Realize," is not even on the CD.
Wow.
So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, in the packaging was terrible. Anyways, but yeah, this is a good album. Just tons of great tracks. I think that like the only track that I'm like I can't stand, but I've grown to like appreciate it more was "Flacking Fluid Injection."
Yeah,
which is just like when you first listen, it's an ear sore. Like it's just really unpleasant, and it goes on for almost 10 minutes. It's like, oh no, this is not a track you keep going for 10 minutes. It's like it's like, okay, make it stop, please, for the love of God. This should be like a minute. Like this should be one of the interludes, not 10 minutes. But I've grown to appreciate it because it's music. Okay, it's a weird thing because music, for the most part, is made to be enjoyed. Like, this is, again, when someone makes music, it's like, okay, I want people to enjoy listening to this. I want this to be, fun, but like, a track like "Flacking Fluid Injection," it challenges the listener. Like, hey, music isn't just to be enjoyed. Music is art, which is, kind of the point of noise music. Or noise music, this isn't like something to be enjoyed. This is something to, it's a canvas. It's like it's like seeing like an intentionally ugly painting, pretty much. It's like you're not supposed to enjoy this. You're supposed to look at this and you're supposed to appreciate it, or not really appreciate it. You're supposed to just
see what I'm going for, kind of.
It needs to evoke something out of you.
And I think that song like evokes exactly what it's trying to, which is like why I have a lot of respect for that song, because as much of a difficult listen as it is, like it's called "Fracking Fluid Injection," and it very clearly sends like, it kind of just translate that concept into sound of like, environmental destruction and this kind of sense of like weeping for the world being destroyed. And I don't know, for me now that's like, it's interesting. It's one of those songs that is like the thing Steve Albini wrote about when he reviewed Spiderland, where he was like, the first time I listened to this, I hated it. And the third time I cried. Like that's me now. Cause like in the back half, when you just have those like really extended vocals from, Karen, like, oh, that really gets me to well up now.
Mm-hmm. And this is a great album. Just tons of like great tracks. Like "Tooth for Nights." Oh my god, that's a great intro. Just like just such kind of like a weird like rhythm. And it's like, oh my god, it's a banger. Okay, this album it is full of bangers, to be honest.
Yeah. That opening track especially.
These are long. Like most of these songs on the album, they're fucking long. But my favorite track on this album is definitely "Stay Out Here." That is a great track. I love the intro and just the way it builds up and just sort of all the changes and whatnot. And her vocals and the lyrics are just like, this is perfect. This is a perfect track. I love it. But yeah, "Shaking Habitual," great album. Do you guys want to say anything else?
Check out Fever Ray if you haven't also.
I need to listen to Fever Ray.
Yeah, the Fever Ray album is it's really great. I only started listening to it this year, but I don't know, it's not like a Knife album, but it's very much Karen kind of doing her own thing, but with that like signature sound that is in her production.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely recommend that.
Okay, so what'd you listen to this week, Stefan?
Let me check the list. Okay, so first off, this week I listened to an album that I listened to a handful of times when it came out, but didn't really like take the time to fully ingest. So I wanted to kind of go back this week and give that album its dues, which is Braids, Deep in the Iris. And Braids, I don't know how well known they are on the sub, but it's a Canadian synth pop, electropop band. And this is my first Braids record. I haven't actually listened to an album of theirs before, but I first became familiar with their vocalist, Raphael, through Blue Hawaii, which is, you guys should check out Untogether by Blue Hawaii, which is just second to Shaking the Habitual for my favorite pop album of 2013.
Oh.
Actually,
Hold on, Stefan, sorry, you're lagging, man.
oh, am I?
Yeah, hold on. Can you say what you're trying to say again?
Okay, where did I cut out?
Let's see.
Favorite album, or favorite something album?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Saying that Blue Hawaii's Untogether was one of my favorite pop albums of 2013, and so that featured Raphael, who is the vocalist for Braids, and so this new Braids album, Deep in the Iris, really kind of it delivers more of that sound and more of her vocals, but just in a much more kind of a much more elaborate and expansive way. It's like it's a very big and vast album, and it sounds very engrossed, in nature. And yeah, it's a really solid album, just very full of like these really robust, soaring songs. The choruses are all super great and like climactic, and her melodies throughout are great. With really great instrumentation too. I'm saying great too much, but. And yeah, not to negate the contributions of the other members, but like Raphael, she is like one of the best songwriters in Canada right now. And yeah, I just really love everything she does. And on this album, she really delivers like her most fully developed, most personal set of lyrics so far. In the past, she's been very vague and abstract. But here, she is just very out in the open. And like the lead single off this album, Miniskirt, is like. Oh, that is such a powerful song, and just it speaks to rape culture in like a very important way, and in a way spoken about right now, and it just does that so well, and it's such a powerful song because of that. So yeah, this album, I think I'm going to keep coming back to it throughout the year because it's really great, and if you like that, Arbutus Records, Grimes, Magical Clouds, Purity Ring kind of sound, this just delivers more of that in a much bigger, more elaborate way. So, yeah.
Well, I think I'll definitely check it out after your recommendation for sure. I think the name is familiar to me. Same with Blue Hawaii, but I definitely haven't checked out any of their stuff, so I will.
All right, cool.
So, what else did you listen to?
The other album I've had basically on repeat since it came out of Friday is Death Magic by Health, and this album was one of the albums I was probably looking forward to the most this year, and it totally delivered on that promise of, from once New Coke dropped, I was just playing that song nonstop, and this album just delivers so much more of that. And yeah, Health, I've really enjoyed their singles for a long time, but never like fully invested myself in an album, and I'm glad I did here because Death Magic really does feel like an album in the grand sense. Everything is just like so tightly sequenced and well put together, and the songs all flow into each other, and it really feels like a much bolder and more fleshed out statement than they've ever made before, at least from what I've been able to tell. And yeah, this record is just like so just engaging and exciting, and it just like it gets me going because just every second of this thing is just loaded with like these massive sounds. And like there's this one like the second half of New Coke, this sound that comes in that is just like this like surging bolt of metal just like slicing through the air, and it just is so like just puts that like real energetic tightness in your chest, and it's just crazy. And I was looking into this album a little bit, and part of the reason why the sounds are so big is it was produced by the Hacks and Cloak, who I've been a big fan of ever since he put out Excavation in 2013. And so I mean, that's really a match made in heaven, just having these bold, aggressive, dark sounds all kind of twisted together in this cacophonous hump. But also, it's really a pop album at heart. They just have so many great, catchy hooks and, solid melodies that it just makes it such an enjoyable listen. And this is like one of the few records this year that I can listen to like back to back and just enjoy it the second time just as much as the first. So, I mean, with more exposure, I can definitely see this winding up in my top 10 of the year.
Well,
I might have to listen to it then.
I'll say that I was like I would say I was pretty much as excited for it as you were, and I really only gave it one listen so far, but I wish I liked it more than I did, honestly. Just kind of, the sounds all, I don't know, blended together a little too much for me. I think I need to give it a better, more focused listen with a better set of headphones, but I was just kind of turned off by how poppy it was. I definitely appreciated the production on there, and there were some really cool sounds, like you pointed out, but I think I need to digest it more before I'm ready to make any big statements on it. But I was a little, not let down, but kind of, I got something I wasn't expecting on my first listen.
Yeah.
All right. So what'd you listen to, AJ?
All right. Well, the first two, I'm gonna talk about three here. The first two I think have been talked about on this podcast a lot, so I'll kind of touch on them briefly. Just two albums I kind of rediscovered maybe 2 weeks ago, I think. The first being Donnie Trumpet and the Social Experiments' Surf. When it dropped the first time, I think me, like everyone else kind of on the planet, was a little kind of disappointed and confused because it really was billed, I think, as a Chance the Rapper project from the start. He was out there hyping it up, and not a lot of people were into the whole Donnie Trumpet and the Social Experiment kind of group. And so when Surf dropped, people were confused with all of the instrumentation and the improvisation, and were expecting more bars from Chance, and that kind of, I think, hurt it initially, but people kind of, on reflection, liked it more. And actually, the Lil B Chance the Rapper project that dropped got me to kind of go back and listen to this. And I really just appreciate kind of the positivity of this album, and the improvisation definitely too. Like, you get this whole, what it is really just kind of a group of friends and even family kind of just getting together, and we're like, we're going to make this kind of fun, happy record. And it definitely just seeps through every song. All the features are really just like fun and expressive. It's kind of a good pop rap album with really great instrumentation, and it might end up, I don't know, if I make a 25 list this year, I think it would probably end up on there now. Do you guys like it at all?
I was just kind of like, I think I listened to it like twice, and I was like, okay, it's an album, I guess. I just was like, okay. I after listening to let's see, Smile by the Beach Boys like a month and a half ago. This album is very Beach Boys inspired now. Like, looking back in retrospect, it just seemed like it was trying to be like a hip hop inspired, Beach Boys, and just it didn't succeed, I guess, in that, because it just sounds like it's trying to sound like it's better and more grand than it actually is.
Yeah. No, there's definitely there are definite shortcomings to it. It's not a perfect record. It might not even be a great record by any stretch of the term, but I think it's fun and good. I appreciate it now for what it is more than I did when it dropped. And I would say when you're in a good mood, maybe give it another spin, and I think it'll grow on you.
Mm-hmm.
And
I might listen to it again. I just was like, okay, I didn't really care.
Yeah, I was definitely turned off at first, and it was just like, oh, it's this.
It wasn't even the hype, because I wasn't even hyped for the album. I was just like,
I wasn't even hyped either. I was like, okay, this is out. I'll listen to it. It's free. Downloaded it. Gave it a listen. I said, well, that was that. I think kind of like you did. So
yeah,
I think I kind of looked at it in a different way on a re-listen, and definitely enjoyed it more for what it was. And then the second album that also really grew on me was Sleater-Kinney's No Cities to Love. I'll make Will happy by talking about this one. Shout out, Will. Hope your appendix is doing all right. And yeah, I mean, this album fucking rocks, man. It fucking rocks. The riffs are great. All the choruses are great. Every single song, I'm like, oh, this is definitely the best chorus in the album. Next song comes on, oh, this is definitely the best chorus in the album. Like, this thing just rocks. It's dimed out front to back, as I would say. It's a great rock record from some kick-ass chicks. I mean, I really like this record now. Wasn't crazy about it at first. I think it dropped in a period where there's a lot of good music coming out from all different genres, and I wasn't really ready for like a good rock and roll album at that time, but I kind of was like, I should give that new Sleater-Kinney another shot, and it just clicked for me. Love this album.
Will is sadly not here, and he would be geeking out with you right now about the album, but I think he just said in the chat like he's getting his appendix removed.
Yeah.
So it seems like his appendix just fucked up. So get well
I hope
soon,
it.
Will.
I hope it wasn't the apprehension of my Sleater-Kinney drop on tonight's podcast that kind of set his body off into a tizzy.
Oh God.
But yeah, this is a great album. I mean, no one should hate this album. If it's not your sound, like, that's okay for you. But no one can really hate this album. It's good. And,
Yeah. No, that's like another album, like Deep in the Iris, that I think I'm gonna have to revisit, because I was a little underwhelmed on first listen, just because I'd never heard a Sleater-Kinney album before, and I didn't know like quite what to expect from them, and I maybe wasn't expecting something so straightforward. But yeah, no, I'll probably have to go back and like dig through their discography a little, and then revisit this record after, just to see, if it holds up, because that's like an album I was, even though I didn't know the band that well, like I was looking forward and what I wanted to like. But like you said, I think, I wasn't really prepared for just such a like straightforward verse chorus like rock record, in the same month.
Yeah, it came out at a bad time in the indie world. I think it dropped between like Panda Bear, Bjork, and like Father John Misty, and it was just this time, I think, where a rock record, I think it was like February, and like a rock and roll record, I think they should have dropped this thing in maybe June or July. I think it would have like blown up more.
Yeah.
And the third thing I'm going to talk about is an album I'm going through a lot of personal strife with this album. I've kind of expressed some of my dissent with it before in various places online, but that would be Tame Impala's Currents.
Oh boy.
I mean, yeah. What do you guys both think
I
about
didn't
this
like this album. We talked about it
I know you
2
guys
weeks
have talked about it a lot, yeah.
I just, I'm just gonna rephrase what I was saying, like just kind of like shorten what I was saying on the podcast like 2 weeks ago. Production, it's good, I guess, but like nothing that I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. There are songs that were like, oh my god, this is amazing, but other times it's just like, okay, it's instrumentation, it's there, it's pretty, but like it's not like I can't connect with it that much. Lyrics are god awful, just terrible.
Okay, yeah, there we go. The lyrics are bad on this thing, but here's the thing: I've been listening to it a lot this past week, because I was like, I really need to focus on that new Tame Impala album and figure out what the hell is going on there. Because the first time I was just like, what is going on here? I think words I would use to describe it are disappointing and underwhelming.
Yeah.
I look at the track list on here, and there are several songs. I look at the track name, and I go, I could not tell you how that song sounds. And I've probably listened to this thing 15 to 20 times in the past 7 days. And there are tracks I look at here and go, I could not, hum you a melody, tell you a lyric on any of those tracks. And there were some. It's
forgettable, I would say. In certain ways, it's forgettable. There's some songs that are very forgettable.
There are great tracks on here. The singles, I think, were all great. Let It Happen, Eventually, and I'm a Man were all really good. I think New Person, Same Old Mistakes is the best track on there, the closer. I mean, I love the, I don't even know what to call it. I think it's like the synth, the bass kind of groove on that track is really, really good. Kind of dark and like.
Maybe the bass guitar?
Almost. Yeah, I think it's the bass guitar on there. But yeah, lyrics all over this thing are kind of wacky.
Okay,
I don't know.
I will explain what you're feeling. Okay, this album, it's like if your douchey ex-boyfriend wrote an album about your breakup. This is that album. Yeah. The thing is, what Jeremiah and I were talking about was like, is he intentionally making himself look like a douchebag? Because I can't tell. Because this album, the thing is, taking the album from a perspective of someone who's kind of like a douche is a very interesting approach, and it can work. But Kevin Parker is not a good enough lyricist to be able to make that work.
Well, yeah, there are those moments where he like calls himself out, like on New Person, Same Old Mistakes, in the moment, and Yes, I'm Changing. Those tracks are, he kind of calls himself out lyrically and says like, am I out of touch, or is it the listeners who are out of touch?
No, it is the children who are wrong.
No, the thing is, he's a douche, but like, it's like you're pissed off at his douchiness, and then you're like, okay, he's not like doing anything to make him like seem like a good person. So like, it's not
relatable, I guess.
No, it's not. Yeah, the thing is, this album, it should be relatable to me, because like some of the things he's talking about are like stuff like, okay, this kind of happened in my breakup.
Well, like, Lonerism is one of the most relatable albums I've ever heard.
I like Lonerism, but like, it's I don't like it as much as other people do. But like, this album, I guess maybe I think I made a comment like, I feel like this album is like, maybe I relate to it too much that like I don't relate to it, and I'm trying to dissociate myself with it.
You just don't want to be reminded, yeah.
Yeah, but like in certain ways, it's like this is, you know, when you have an album like Volnikura come out in the same year, which is such a great breakup album, it's like everything just pales in comparison. Like,
and I think thematically, I mean, those issues are obvious, but I think musically too, the synths on this thing layered way too heavily. They're just sloshed on there. These songs get drowned, and after a while, they just kind of come and go. Like a song starts, waves of synth coming at you.
It's like, hey guys, it's me, Kevin. I learned how to play the synths over the summer.
Yeah, just drowning in synths. This thing, way too much synth. I think a more laid back production kind of would have done this thing better, and maybe would have made the lyrics kind of hit more intimately.
The thing is, the message is just way too obvious, and the production is just way too obvious. It's like, I'm changing as a person, okay? Don't you tell with my production? It's like he keeps saying about the album, I'm changing, and he doesn't fucking change. It's like,
there you go.
It's like, shut up, Kevin Parker. Shut up, you fucking douchebag. You fucking Aussie fucker. Shut up.
Yeah, but, I mean, overall, there are tracks I like a lot that I'll probably keep in rotation
and
for a while.
And of course, yeah, like, What Had Happened? Great track. Nangs. Great track. Let's see, hold on. The Less I Know, the Better. Great track. But,
I
like,
think just this album overall, as a whole, as an album, I think failed at what it set out to do. It's disappointing to me.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't a big Tame Impala fan, so I wouldn't say it's disappointing. It's just like, really? This is getting you guys all hyped up? And then seeing like, it's like a 9.3 on Pitchfork? It's like, really?
We don't need to get into the whole
I won't get into it.
thing here, but yeah, no, Lonerism is like one of my personal choices for, I mean, best album of the decade, even the century maybe. Lonerism to me is an incredible piece of musical achievement, but I wasn't crazy about Let It Happen the first time I heard it, and I never really got hyped up for this album. I think the sound to me was just kind of off-putting from the start, and maybe I knew they were never going to top Lonerism, and so, but I don't think that's why I'm as disappointed in Currents as I am. I think there are musical and lyrical shortcomings that just kind of don't fulfill this album's promise.
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, it's. I never thought I'd be like, as someone who is not a Tame Impala fan, the person on the podcast who's like defending Currents. But I've listened to it maybe 4 or 5 times, and I've enjoyed this album quite a bit. I have to be honest, and more so than any other Tame Impala album I've listened to, really, because I listened to both Inner Speaker and Lonerism, because I wanted to like have the context that Currents was arriving in, and both those albums just bored me, I guess. I found the sounds to be very static and the melodies to be very like they were dreamlike to a fault, and they just kind of drifted off and didn't go anywhere. And so with Currents, I actually found like that was the major improvement. And it's funny you guys talk about the lyrics, because I have listened to this album 5 times and have not listened to like a single word of the lyrics, just because like I'm so focused on the melody.
Seriously, I remember Jeremiah, he made a comment in the listening party thread like, if you don't speak English and you skip Past Life, this is a good album.
I don't even think Past Life is that bad.
Yeah,
it's not the Abomination.
I will defend Past Life. As much as I was disappointed in this album, I thought Past Lives was, a passable track.
Past Life, the problem is that not only is it a bad song, the problem with it is that, there's like a kind of a story / theme throughout the entire album of, like kind of breaking up, and just, it's generally kind of a breakup album. You can, the thing is, if you don't listen to the lyrics, the thing is, Past Life, it forces you in a narrative. It's like, it has a narrative going on, it forces you into it. Like, I don't really enjoy the narrative, okay? Like, I don't care about it, I just want to listen to good music. No, you have to care about this narrative. It's like, Kevin Parker, this is a badly written narrative. Why are you trying to promote it even more? It's like, no, you gotta care about my breakup, okay? Okay, I'm not a douchebag, okay? I swear. And it's like, oh, God, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Can we...
Let's be done.
Finish it up, please. Or...
Well, I was disappointed, and that's it. Take it to
I was pleasantly surprised, and that's it. I don't love this album. It's not a 9.3. It probably won't make my top 20, but it consistently held my attention much more than the 2 previous Tame Impala albums did when I listened to them, and so for that reason, I enjoy it a moderate amount.
Mm-hmm.
Different strokes for different folks.
So yeah, let's go into the main topic. So recently, Mac DeMarco's new mini album, another one came out, and it's kind of sparked up a lot of discussions about artistic progression and like how should an artist progress and how should their music change and get better or worse. And and I guess we can kind of talk about the album real quickly. Another one. There's not much to discuss. I personally I think it's good. It's Mac DeMarco. So if you like Mac DeMarco, you'll probably like this album.
Yeah, it's 20 more minutes of Mac DeMarco.
Yeah,
if you like Mac DeMarco, there's nothing to complain about. If you don't, it's 20 minutes. Fuck off.
It's tiny little progressions, like he's adding a bit more synthesizers, getting a little better at songwriting, but it's tiny progressions pretty much, which is is that enough? I want to discuss this real quick. So, but for Mac DeMarco's next album, his next full LP, it's make it or break it. If he doesn't progress on this next album, he's just gonna start losing fans slowly.
I think people were starting to see through his shtick on Salad Days. I really liked Salad Days a lot, but definitely the people who never really hopped on the Mac DeMarco hype train just said he has that same kind of slackery, bluesy guitar sound over and over and over again. I think on Salad Days was the turning point where his fans couldn't say, no, he changes it up a lot. I mean, the songs on there definitely sounded almost all similar with the exception of Chamber of Reflection. Easily the best track on that album. And, I mean, he wasn't changing it up too much, and on this he hints at it, I think, but you're right, that the next album is going to have to change things up big time for sure if Mac wants to, draw in a bigger crowd than he already has.
So
yeah.
What were you going to say?
And you brought up. I wanted to touch on
Stefan, you're lagging.
One of the highlights of the album for me was that. Sorry, am I cutting up?
Yeah, you're kind of lagging
We're back.
a bit.
Okay. Still.
I think it's the sound quality's bad, but I can hear you. Yeah, I don't hear you.
Yellow.
Okay. Well, anyways, AJ, no?
I hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right, great. Sorry about that. Anyways, yeah, AJ, you touched on two things I just wanted to mention, which was probably the highlight of this album for me is Mac's guitar playing. Along with his songwriting, is becoming just so much more technical and out there when you compare, just kind of the straightforward strumming patterns.
Oh, okay.
All day, really, just very technical and expressive stuff he's doing again. All right. Well, we'll wait for the internet to speed up. I need you guys to keep moving on to the topic. I'll jump in next time.
Yeah, I think you were saying his guitar playing on here is maybe different, stylistically different. Yeah, I really like it. I really like the hints he shows of I think that's why we're talking about this progression, different ideas that he has. I think his guitar playing is more fine-tuned on this album, I think specialized is a good word I would use. Each song kind of tries to be hitting something sonically that I think they all get. And yeah, I mean, for 20 minutes of Mac DeMarco music, I won't complain. I wish more artists did this, just kind of dropped mini projects that were sort of teasers, EPs between albums that were kind of teasers and samplers. Do we agree? Yeah, I mean, as far as favorite tracks on this album go, for me, I think, the stuff he put out, I think, for an 8-song album, I think every song kind of came out beforehand. So tracks I love, Another One, No Other Heart, I've Been Waiting for Her, all great tracks. I mean, there's not a bad track on here, really. And, I mean, more Mac.
Yeah.
Not complain about that.
So yeah, Another One, it's a decent, it's more Mac.
Well, one thing that...
Oh, Stefan, yeah, you're lagging still, buddy. See, if you guys don't know, Stefan's from Canada.
Sorry.
We're probably not that far away. What part of Canada are you in?
And our internet is on par with third world countries. I'm in Edmonton. Mac DeMarco's home.
Well, there you go, yeah. I'm in Michigan, so we're not that far away.
Oh, no.
Okay, anyways, let's see. While Stefan's lagging, I guess we'll kind of... The thing is, this discussion, it's Mac DeMarco is just sort of a stepping stone to the discussion of artistic progression, where there's this thing nowadays where we're expecting artists to keep progressing and not making the same music over and over again. There's certain artists who do that, and certain people like that music, but certain artists, it's okay, we don't want them making the same music over and over again. We want them to keep changing things up. And of course, there's certain people who let's look at Kid Cudi, for example. Kid Cudi...
Can we not? Can we never look at Kid Cudi?
I hate Kid Cudi, but I think he's a very important example in this discussion of artistic progression, because
if you want to give an example of someone progressing horribly.
He is such a clear case of someone who's both progressing and regressing at the same exact time, where the more he keeps progressing as an artist and he keeps trying new things, the worse he gets. And it's just like,
And is that a risk you run as an artist when you try and change your sound up too much because you're getting accused of making the same album over and over again?
And the issue is that it's like, okay, it kind of comes in with taking criticism, where Kid Cudi is notoriously terrible at taking criticism. He's terrible at it.
He's like the worst, yeah.
And, it's like, he has just a bunch of yes men surrounding him, telling him, oh yeah, Kid Cudi, you want to make an album with just guitar and drums and bass? Go on ahead, Kid Cudi. You can do that. It's like, Kid Cudi, no, you just learned how to play guitar like a year ago. And drums, you also just learned how to play that like 6 months ago. Why do you think you can make an album? Like Anthony Fantano, he did a review on it, on his new track, and he said, if you turned in this song to like Sub Pop Records, they would laugh in your face and tell you to get the fuck out. And
yeah,
it's just a case of that. But anyways, artistic progression, there's tons of artists you can like cite right now that like are constantly progressing. For example, Kendrick Lamar. He made progression. He made tons of progression from To Pimp a Butterfly, or from Good Kid, Mad City, where he's going in with new production. Kind of going away from the storytelling style of rapping, where he's still doing storytelling, but like he's kind of going away from that concept of just having like a concept where it's just an entire story. You see artists making tiny progressions, or
yeah. I think an example I want to make of an artist who's progressing is St. Vincent. Definitely, I think.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the new album, with the guitar and the electronic sounds, I think it was a complete change ball from everything she's done in the past. And I mean, look how well that worked out for her. That album got ridiculously great critical acclaim.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, across the board, literally almost every music publication on planet Earth had that album on their list last year. And I mean, it's just because she changed it up and it was such a big, exciting sound. People are like, look at what St. Vincent is doing. This album is incredible.
Just to get a little conspiracy theory real quick, she was on a new label this time around. She was on 4AD. But anyways, we got St. Vincent, she added more pop appeal to her, to her sound. Kind of added more poppier elements, kind of, strip, there's still guitars in the album, but like kind of struck them back a little bit. Like okay, the guitars are great and all, but like let's add some synthesizers, let's add some more different sounds in the music, and it ended up working out greatly for her. She won a Grammy, she got tons of publicity, she's dating Cara Delevingne now, or Cara Devil. How do you pronounce her fucking last name? Cara Delevingne.
That's why I don't try.
But yeah, she's dating Cara. That's getting her tons of publicity. It's just sort of like all these things are snowballing for her, which I think is great. And St. Vincent is a great album, but like it does make me wonder what she's gonna do next. Because like, is she gonna go more pop, or is she gonna like just fuck with everyone and do something completely different?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely excited for that album.
Because with Mac DeMarco, you can predict his progressions. Like, okay, like even before you listen to another one, you go, okay, maybe he'll add more synths, songwriting maybe will get better, who knows? And it's like, okay, that's what happened. Okay, I guess when artists progress, there's sort of an unpredictability, to it, where I guess it's a challenge. I like when artists are challenging themselves constantly. I think that's a very important thing you have to do as an artist. Number one, you got to listen to criticism. You got to take it in. Sometimes some criticism is dumb. Like, it's like, what is this person talking about? They're fucking stupid. But sometimes it's like, okay, you got to take it into consideration, though. But anyways.
And yeah, I mean, people will complain because they just wanted to hear the same album again.
Which is stupid.
Case in point, Neon Bible, baby. My favorite album of all time was kind of not badly received, but questionably received because the sound was so different from Funeral, and a Reflector as well. Arcade Fire changed up their sound enormously on that record. There were hints of it before, but I mean, that album was questionably received because the sound was changed up so much from the Suburbs. After the Suburbs brought them so many fans, I think people wanted to hear the Suburbs Part 2, and they dropped this fucking Haitian disco record, and people were just like, what?
And that makes you wonder, like, okay, so, like, when it gets criticized, it's like, okay, is this getting criticized because it's different, or is this getting criticized because it's not good music?
To be fair, Reflector was not really criticized that much.
I mean, yeah, it definitely wasn't. It got great ratings from, but
I
like
think
fans were kind of mixed on
there
it.
was a fan backlash that was kind of like, what is this album? And I think Arcade Fire is a band who their next album is not going to sound anything like Reflector, nor is it going to sound like anything they've put out before. They're a great example of an artist progressing. If you start at their EP and work your way to Reflector, you know,
It sounds like a different band each album, pretty much.
There's a huge sonic change each album. Yeah.
So, and of course, to go back to Kid Cudi, if you're going to progress, make sure you're getting your, like, if you're going to make if you're going to start doing new sounds, like, okay, make sure those sounds are good. Like, make sure you know these sounds. Make sure you respect the art. Make sure you know what you're getting into. With Kid Cudi, it's like, I'm going to self-produce my entire album. It's like, Kid Cudi, you just started producing, like, how long ago? Maybe less than a year ago, and you're already like, I'm going to make an album just with my production. It's like, no, like, man, it's, I mean, if you want to go into self-production, great, but, like, don't go, like, okay, I'm going to self-produce an entire album now. Like, get some experience first, do some co-production, work with more different producers, kind of, work on your sound before you display it, pretty much. And, it's like, if you released Indieheads for free, it would have gotten better reception, pretty much. It's like, okay, this is self-produced, but, like, he's trying new things, and, like, this is just sort of like seeing, what he's doing. It's like, but it's like you're putting this out for money, okay? Like,
yeah, I
you
mean,
expect people to buy this.
I think Kid Cudi's a pretty, bad example to kind of harp on so much, just because.
I'm sorry, my Kid Cudi hate shows no
I
bounds.
mean, I think we could rename this podcast the Kid Cudi Hate Podcast.
Pretty much.
But other artists I think that have done it well. I've listed Arcade Fire, St. Vincent. Swans is a great example. They change up their sound all the time. And they're a band that's been progressing for, 30 years? They've literally changed the name and the kind of ensemble that they play with. Each album definitely sounds different that drops from Swans. I think in the state of the music industry here in 2015, if you want to kind of keep the fan base and become a big band, I think between albums you definitely have to change up your sound somewhat, because there's a motorcycle in the background.
I was like, is that a motorcycle? What's that?
That might be coming from me. Oh.
Why are you having a motorcycle in your house,
Reckless
dude?
Canadians on their motorcycle.
Reckless Canadians?
No, it's because I'm in my girlfriend's apartment right now, and she lives, like, right by a major street. It's a great recording location. Anyways.
But, no, I think, in 2015, with so many artists out and so many wave channels to get into music, if you hear an album and you like that sound, chances are you go online and say, I like this sound, where can I hear something similar? The first step isn't going to be, oh, check out the band's previous record. It's going to be, oh, well, here's this other band from, I don't know, across the earth that has a very similar sound. I think you'd like that. And so to market yourself on one sound, I think is harder now than it ever was before, because there's so many options for music. So you do have to change your sound kind of to keep fans and keep people interested.
And that's the thing, that's a big thing, a part of the internet. It's like, people, the thing is, it's just, information just being blasted in their face all the time, just all these new things popping up. It's like we want, basically people, they want something different each time. Like, we want something new. Like, give us something new.
There's an equal amount of people wanting something new and people wanting the exact same album.
Yeah, of course. But, I think people now, it's like slowly transitioning of, like, more people want more, like, different. And that, with in terms of maybe, like, critics, I guess, they want new. And people who, like, are very serious music listeners, I guess like ourselves. Oh, God, I feel so pretentious for just saying that.
No,
I think we want different. We
point.
want artists to not be making the same stuff over and over again, because that becomes boring, and then we start liking those artists so much. And it's like, you got to change things up if you want to keep. Basically, if you want to stay relevant, you have to make sure you're changing things up. Definitely. Because there's tons of trends and there's tons of things that are just changing all the time, and you gotta prep for it pretty much.
Yeah, that's a great point. With so many options and so many ways people can listen to music with different sounds now, I think an artist owes it to themselves to at least try something new on every release, to try and bring people in and try and keep their fans interested.
Mm-hmm. Because it's just sort of like a game, pretty much. It's like, okay, you gotta, basically, I think you have to challenge with art. I think we mentioned this earlier with, like, talking about the knife. It's like, music, it's like, it's got to be a challenge. It is definitely, for the most part, for entertainment and for enjoyability, but it's just sort of like, It's like, but in order to do that, sometimes you have to challenge your fans. Like, I'm not, it's like, hey, I'm not gonna make the same album over again. Like, we're gonna do something new. Like, okay, you got to be ready for it, pretty much. And, and sometimes, there's, bands, they try experimenting and it doesn't work out, and and then they learn from that. For the most part, they learn from their mistakes and they improve upon themselves.
Yeah, one more artist I want to point out for progressing a lot, changing up between albums. One of my favorite songwriters of all time, Mark Kozelek. I mean, his albums change pretty enormously too. He's got a lot of projects, but I mean, every album he puts out, with his name on it, I think sounds pretty gosh darn different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Universal Themes compared to Benji. Less than a year in between those two albums, and they couldn't be more different.
So yeah, of course, and then of course with Universal Themes, that got a lot of kind of maybe mixed criticism from people, which I think was made from
reasons.
For the controversy. But in sound, people who realize, okay, this is music. Who gives a shit if an artist did this? It's like, I want to, unless it's a part of the music. Like, hey, if this story is a part of the music, I don't care. But with the interesting, I think it was an experiment that paid off very well, because it was such a different type of. I mean, the thing is, it's not like Universal Themes was unexpected. Like, he had been building to the songwriting style, and he kind of took it to its peak, pretty much. Of like, this is straight up just like a podcast. This is a podcast that rhymes, and there's guitars and
with some really interesting guitars.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I haven't gotten too into his into Red House Painters and his previous albums to Benji. I did listen to
his solo albums too. I mean, not just the stuff he put out at Sun Kill Moon, but his solo albums especially. The album he did with Jimmy LaVale.
I was going to talk about that. That's a great album. I love that album.
And might be my favorite thing he's put out besides Benji.
Because it sounds like it's like if the Postal Service grew up and became a middle-aged man.
Mm-hmm. And when he performed some of those songs live, I mean, that was one of the best shows I've ever seen. He's incredible, really.
Mm-hmm. So let's see, is there any artists we can bring up that they're big parts of artistic progression?
I mean, those are some of my favorites, I think, who I've seen progress a lot.
Oh yeah, a huge example of artistic progression. Sufjan Stevens, always changing it up from album to album. And Illinois, or let's start off. I'm gonna start with the first album I've listened to by him. Like, the farthest back is Michigan, which is sort of like folksy and kind of like it seems like more a lo-fi orchestra, I guess.
Was Seven Swans before Michigan?
No, it was Michigan then Seven Swans.
Okay.
Where Michigan's sort of like it's folksy, but still there's a lot of these really it's still very folksy and kind of minimalist, but at the same time very expansive at the same time. Which it's sort of a weird balance between minimalism and expansion of I feel like the sound this is lyrically and just the work that was put in was this is very expansive, but musically it didn't really have that, I guess.
Yeah.
Where look at Illinois, that's super fucking expansive.
Well, I mean, and of course there's Age of Odds.
And Age of Odds just kind of adds even more to the expansiveness and adds more new sounds and sort of goes for more electronic, which is what he did on a Rabbit Came.
All Delighted People also.
All Delighted People was more of All Delighted People was sort of in between Illinois and Buki, and then,
I mean,
Age of Odds.
It's over an hour long, isn't it?
What All Delighted People?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I think it is. I mean, it's kind of hard to call that a side project. I mean, even for Sufjan, it's over an hour long, so there's clearly a lot of thought that went into that thing. But yeah, I mean, the electronic hints were there. That's what was coming on Age of Odds.
Mm-hmm. So,
And then after Age of Odds, he follows it up with Carrie and Lowell. He stripped it down as much as you can pretty much strip down an album, and received excellently. I think no one wanted. I mean, as much as people would love to hear another Illinois or
Age of Odds,
the same sound he did on Age of Odds. I think Sufjan, stripped it down, went for something different, went for a different story, a different narrative, and a different message. And I mean, Carrie and Lowell's a great album.
Mm-hmm. So the thing is, I think when we were discussing Carrie and Lowell a few months ago on the podcast, I said that while I do like the expansive production, I realized that in the context of Carrie and Lowell, it needed to be stripped back. It had to be. You can't really I don't want to hear songs over Age of Odds instrumentation. That just wouldn't sound good. It wouldn't sound right.
Oh my God, no way.
It's very dark and depressing and very moody, and it's just sort of like it feels empty.
Yeah,
It's a very empty album, which is very much a compliment. Where where Stefan, he feels empty, and because of that, the music is empty too. Where it's very just really maybe guitar, usually just a guitar, maybe some piano and some drums here and there, but usually it's just him and his guitar. And like even some of the songs were recorded on like an iPhone, for Christ's sake.
I mean, yeah, there's that like fan sound to the whole. It sounded like it was recorded through like a desk fan. I think a friend of mine told me that when I recommended it to them. They were like, did they record this entire album like through a desk fan? I mean, it's kind of got that atmospheric sound to it, but it's unique and it's individual and it stands out in his discography, and that's kind of why I think it stands out.
It's a very personal album, pretty much.
Definitely.
Very personal, very stripped back, very laid. I wouldn't say laid back, I guess, because that
not
just
laid back,
right.
but the sound is the
it's minimalistic, and it's for a reason.
Yeah, the big things are kind of hidden. The things you're supposed to take away from it, rather than booming, bass and electronic beats. It's kind of the
taking the lyric. He wants you to. It's like, I want you to hear what I'm saying. Okay, I want you to read what I'm saying. Okay,
it's expertly designed, the album.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, is there? Okay, can we think of any other cases besides Mac DeMarco of artists just like not progressing, and then just because of that their music kind of falters? Like they just kept making the same album over and over again, and people just got sick of it.
I'm sure it happens in hip hop a lot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, with those artists who put out a project every year. I mean, look at Future has dropped 3 projects already this year. I think all of those projects are pretty good, but
they all sound the same.
They all definitely sound the same. It's definitely Future. I would say, I don't think Drake has progressed that much in his sound. I mean, he's got more mature and technically more skilled, I think, but beats wise, theme wise.
Wait, do you mean Drake or Quentin Miller?
Ooh, I mean Drake. Aubrey, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, I don't think Drake project to project has shown too much artistic progression as you'd expect, from a hip hop artist.
Yeah,
quite literally.
We don't expect like hip hop artists to progress as much as like other artists, which is just sort of weird. I guess maybe it's just sort of. I don't want to say this because it's very disrespectful to the genre, but I think depending on the artist, they see hip hop as very limited. They, sometimes they only have, a limited amount of, of
kind
money
of derivative. Yeah, they hit a niche.
Because there's certain artists they can go out there and make really different stuff.
I mean,
but if they have the money or they have the skill, but certain artists they just don't have that in them where they can, constantly change things up.
Kendrick Lamar clearly cares about, the sound of each album, the message, the kind of overall packaging of each of his albums, and I think that's why he's been met with so much critical acclaim, and so many people would say he's the most talented, most skilled artist in hip-hop right now, is because he really cares about each of the sounds of his projects, when some artists care about the sounds of their singles, or the sounds of their features, or their wordplay, or the beats that they're playing over, not everything at once simultaneously, like Kendrick Lamar packages his albums together.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. I think that's really about. I guess we can mention more. So like, I think we'll just be listing off artists that are like, like just progressing. Bjork. I forgot to mention her. Like she constantly progresses.
Oh yeah, great example.
But I guess the final thing we discuss is like, should we expect artistic progression? And I gotta say yes. It's like, as an artist, I feel like I would get sick of making the same music over and over again. I would always want to change. I wouldn't want to try to change things up constantly. Like, hey, I don't want to be derivative. I want to, keep my fans on their toes. Like, I don't want, it just, making the same music over again. I just don't see, besides maybe, unless you're earning a lot of success on that, making that same sounds over and over again, I don't see why an artist would, just like, why are you going to make the same stuff over and over again? Unless you're just in it for the money, like, I can't see why we'd want to do that.
I mean, as far as Mac DeMarco goes, do you think he's accidentally making the same album at the same time? I think his change in sound is kind of much more muted, not as apparent as some people would kind of expect. There are differences in Mac DeMarco's music, and it's always kind of been pleasant, easy listening music. Mm-hmm. But there are changes, I think, song to song.
I guess when we were discussing the other one, there are tiny progressions, but it's like, okay,
As far as
at
another
a certain
one
point,
goes,
it's like, okay, these time progressions they're not enough. We need more, Mac.
yeah, for another one, I say there are hints of progression in that album. There are hints, just because it's such a short project. It's a 20-minute project. I think there are hints of where he goes. But I'm completely on board with your statement where Mac DeMarco's next album will probably be the most important album Mac DeMarco puts out.
Cause it's like, okay, it's like you've got all these fans, dude, on this sound, but like, these fans aren't gonna stay forever, okay? You know, it's like, and you know, he's a young guy. He's only like 25, I think, 25, 24, and it's like he's still got a lot of time left. So you know, it's just sort of like he definitely has a big album in him. He definitely can make huge progressions if he really does, you know, have time to focus. But I think another one, in my opinion, I think it's just like, okay, these are songs I wrote. I just need more material to tour with. Like, I just want new songs to tour with, and that's.
I would be skeptical to say that Mac knows, you know, that people will just buy the same shit he puts out over and over again. Well, I mean, he probably knows that, but I don't think he's banking on that, kind of rubbing his hands behind the camera. And
no, he's definitely
not. These suckers will eat up all the shit I put out. You know, he clearly cares about the sounds that he's putting out and the music he makes. I think he kind of enjoys the sound he's producing.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that he likes the music he's making, but it's just sort of like, it's like, okay, it's just sort of the thing where it's like, I just hope he, you know, he's got big progressions, he's got big changes he can make, he's got that in him. It's just waiting for him to show that, and I feel like the next album is like, okay, this is your chance. Like, you
I don't think he's pandering or you know, just robbing people by making the same album over and over again with this sound. I think he's definitely, you know, a young artist, kind of a new artist, and exploding artist, kind of figuring out what he's doing still. And yeah, I think he's got that big album in him. I can't wait to see it.
So yeah, I think that's about it. So let's see. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the podcast. Welcome back, AJ. And
yeah, I really
Stefan.
enjoyed the discussion this week.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll be on a bit more often. You know, not a once every 5 months.
Yes, you will see me before January.
Let's see. Stefan, you there, buddy?
Oh yeah, I've been there. I've been listening. Just didn't want to cut in with too much leg, but yeah, thank you for having me on. It was a great time discussing, and hopefully I'll be back again soon.
So yeah, again, hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the podcast, and bye guys.
Adios.